Quite a few people have been saying that Automobilista 2 has had updates that are utterly game-changing. Well, it'd been a while since I played Automobilista 2, so I thought I'd jump on and give it a go to see what the current state of this game is and whether or not it has been game-changed, or if it's still the same old Automobilista 2 that some people love and some people hate. Does it still have that Project Cars 2 flavour, or have Reza finally managed to cook the potato? Remember to subscribe so you can unsubscribe when I say stuff about your favourite game you disagree with. Click the like button, and as always, thanks to all our channel members and supporters that allow me to be a miserable git. First of all, I want to talk about some positive stuff, and that is the fact that you can't deny Reza have been absolutely killing it with the content that they've put in Automobilista 2 and the licensed content they've got. The new cars they've added, some of the GT cars and this Formula car in more recent times, really, really good. The car models, the audio is really nice. The content they do is absolutely superb. And when I jump back into this, you really notice how many awesome cars and tracks are in this title, with them all looking great, running great, and then the ability to actually race them with perfectly serviceable AI. It might not be Grand Prix Legends AI, but as far as modern simulators go, you can jump into this and you can actually have pretty decent racing. I'd say if you're not a top super duper top split iRacer skill level driver and you're over, say, 2 seconds off the pace and maybe not pro at driving with trail brake and everything, then the AI in this will put up a really nice challenge. If you're a more skilled driver, you'll find the AI drops off when you overtake them, and so you'll have to start gaming it by starting at the back, putting the AI on the right setting, and kind of doing that GT thing. But, you know, they do make some mistakes, they do make certain movements, and if you are slow and make mistakes yourself, they generally will overtake you. Also, if you squeeze them too hard, they will pin you, like real drivers will. But if you give them space, they actually tend not to drive into you, or drive into you quite softly. But yeah, I don't think it can be stated clear enough. A lot of sims at the moment, especially for single player or just general content, are really quite lacking. You could pop a VR headset on, and this, for most people, they will have a great time with it. Also worth saying as well, you know, the frame rate thing is massively important. It looks great whilst running really well, which means it then runs great in VR. You can also have shed loads of cars on the track. I think it's like 46 cars or something, and it will still run fantastic compared to any other simulator. So it's beautiful, with the beautiful tracks, time of day, really, really, really good. And all in a nice package. Right, myself personally, I bought the complete edition for, I think it was £90 or £100 years ago when this first came out. But the amount of content you get for that over the years it's built up is utterly insane value for money, and it can't be overstated. Again, the artistry of the tracks and all the details and everything, bloody good. You really notice it when you go from other simulators and then back into AMS2, and you're like, what are some of the other sims doing? Like, why do they not look as good, and why do they run half as slow? Or why are they charging so much money like iRacing for each individual track? But look at Silverstone here. It looks bloody amazing. Now, another thing really worth saying is that over the years, the default force feedback profiles have also improved for quite a while now. I think it's like a year or so. The default plus force feedback, or even just the default force feedback now, really good force feedback that tells you what's happening, gives you a good feel for the cars. Really pleasant, straight out of the box. You don't really need to fiddle with things. And the force feedback in this game, I believe, should feel decent on just about any wheel, with the option to tweak it if you want to. Like, you can fully customize it if you want to as well, but, you know, again, great out of the box experience now, great value for money with a shed load of content and stuff to actually do in single player, especially for those of you looking for a nice immersive VR racing game who aren't particularly interested in the multiplayer side of it, or who aren't in the super mega high skill driving category. I think that's where this title really stands out. And I'll say it again, we say it in every video, You've got the multiplayer in this where you can host easily from the game, which is fantastic. But you can also fill the multiplayer with AI. So if you've just got like 2 or 3 friends and you're like, let's do a Formula race, or let's do a random Brazilian stock car, or let's do go-karting or whatever, you only need a couple of you, and then you can fill the rest of the server with AI and have a fully fledged race without needing to find 20 other people, right? Surprisingly, not that common of a feature in racing games and racing sims. Only really Project Cars 2, and out of the new titles, Wreckfest 2 has it as a feature. But yeah, quite a rare thing, but really good nonetheless. So, in terms of the positive points, I don't want to just retread the same ground that we've done in every AMS2 video. It is a game that I would recommend newer sim racers to get, or someone looking for single player, or someone looking for a VR focused racing sim in single player with nice graphics. You know, it's one to pick up, even if you just pick up the basic package. When Reza do new DLCs, they often do free weekends where you can access all the DLCs and try it out for free as well. So that's great, really nice that Reza offered that feature. Definitely worth owning and having it in your sim bin, especially if you're a newer sim racer or more casual. Now, on to the sad, miserable part of the video, the second half, the bit you love. With all those positives said, unfortunately, despite the very clear, huge amount of work they've put into this and the dialing in, the handling and tweaks and adjustments to physics that they've done over the years, though I think they have like really made it a lot more stable and consistent and tried to negate that sort of Project Cars 2 trolley, drive deep into the corner, welly the steering, throttle hard and then counter steer like a lunatic. And I think they have done a really good job. Like, it's way more balanced and neutral handling between the pedal and the steering than even MS2 used to be. Like, they've in the last year or so, I think they've really improved things. But it still feels really, really off in the handling at the limit. There really seems to be, like, in this game, a defined under the limit and then weird over the limit trolley mode, which was the sort of pure meta of Project Cars 2. Though they've reduced it, I think, especially in this newer content, that sort of meta still seems there. And then the really big thing, and this was our complaint with Automobilista 2 at the very beginning, is the sense that it never feels like you're getting the weight on the front tyres from either lift off oversteer or lifting off to get oversteer from lift off oversteer, or when it comes to trail braking, it's like the way you're rotating and turning the cars in this game is by removing grip from the rear rather than you getting the grip onto the front and getting the bite from the front of the car. It makes all the cars feel like some kind of plank that has grip and then goes into a trolley slidey mode, a bit Project Cars 2-y. There's still, you know, it's modularly controllable. It doesn't just bin you straight away. If you're careful on your pedals, you can still control that, but it's more like you're just rotating the centre of the car, totally independent of the tyres. Like the transfer of the weight onto the front is not really how you're driving it. The best way to describe this, for if I'm not making any sense, is if you play iRacing. I complain about iRacing a lot because the tyres over the limit and around the limit are insane. But under the limit and trail braking, you'll notice that the initial turn of the car is really nice and responsive from the steering input. And then you have really fine trail brake control in terms of nosing the car into the corner. Evo as well, which is totally messed up on the throttle. Again, really nice trail brake control with a lot of the vehicles and how they nose into the corner without it feeling like you're just removing grip from the rear. AC1, really good, neutrally balanced, fantastic. But I would say AC1's actually a bit overly stiff and the cars are generally unresponsive or less responsive than I think real cars are. But even then, even with AC1, once you start trail braking and getting the weight onto the front tyres, the cars turn in nicely on the brake and it doesn't feel like you're rotating the car by removing grip from the rear tyres. So the fundamental driving in this title just feels really, really off if you are I'd say a moderately skilled driver, you'll just notice it straight away. You'll be like, this doesn't make any real sense. You end up then having to throw the cars into the corner in a weird way, or just get them into this trolley driving mode that ends up being a real chore. Like this game, it just feels like a chore to drive, whereas when you're good at driving, that neutral state of a car might be tricky to get it into, but that neutral state of the car is kind of where it's less effort with the steering wheel, and the car's really sensitive, so it's less work to get it to do stuff, which is why it's satisfying. Whereas this is, you know, it's either pretty much on rails with a bit of sort of mushy slip to it, or then trolley mode. Really, really weird to drive this if you're a more skilled driver. Again, I think a lot of people might not notice it if you approach this in a more robotic way, if you're not used to really precisely balancing the cars. You know, you might not notice it or care about it. If you're sort of 3-4 seconds off the pace typically, I don't think you're going to notice or care. As well, I think if your driving style is one of just rolling into slip, then again, you're probably not going to notice this dynamic. But if you do notice this dynamic, I think it kind of kills how to driving it in the game, and as I say, it ends up feeling like a bit of a chore. Weirdly, you know, there's titles like Wreckfest 2, and it's just natural. It feels totally natural to drive. There's a specific dynamics. AMS1, Live for Speed, AC, RBR. They're all different. They have better and worse components to them, but they kind of drive like cars. And there's a bunch of sims where the cars really just don't drive like cars. There's massive physics holes in them. And AMS2, I think, is one of those sims. If you just want to jump in, do fun racing with fun content, and maybe you don't play 200 hours of sims a month like I do, maybe you don't care. But, you know, there you go. I just, at this point now, and this is why I stopped playing Automobilista 2, I think it had been like 6 months since I last played it. I don't think that they're ever going to be able to make it actually drive like a car. Like the basic handling component. It's weird because there are loads of aspects to this sim that you can tell are really, really nice. Like there's aspects of how the tyre gain and loses grip, the thermal aspects of the tyres, I believe, some aspects of how the suspension's behaving. You know, it doesn't have AC1's curbing issue when you go over curbs. All the graphics, all the content, the audio is now really quite nice and polished in many ways. There's so much here that's really complicated, really advanced, on a way higher level of complexity to, as I say, like AC1's a good example. There's a lot of complexity. There's components there where you're like, oh, that's like 5 times better than what you'll see in other simulators. Unfortunately, the most basic part of the handling isn't right. So it's like if you had Super Mario, but he didn't have any legs, and so he's sliding on his bottom. But the jumping was perfect, the platforms were perfect, the graphics were perfect, and it was the best Mario game ever, but he's sliding on his bottom and he's not actually running. That's the problem. The basics are not correct, which then undermines the nuanced stuff that's really interesting from a simulation perspective, I think, but it's dependent on the basic stuff, the basic weight transfer to the front, or the basic handling from the wheels and the pedals and how that's balanced is dependent on those things operating correctly. And I think what you see, and we talk about this a lot, is the sims like Live for Speed, AC1, Richard Burns Rally, AMS1, they might be overly simplistic and they might be, you know, not the most dynamic of things, but the cars drive like cars. They don't drive like a particular real world car, but the techniques, all the basic techniques of driving are covered. You're not excluded from using one of the normal basic techniques of driving. And this is what seems to happen with these more complex tyre models that you see in LMU, iRacing, Assetto Corsa Rally, Evo. All these engines, all these really complicated physics engines, they don't do the basics correct, so it's kind of pointless. Another really good example of a sim that does the basics right, like Wreckfest 2, you can just jump in and drive it and it makes perfect sense. It's obviously a bit simple, and they obviously have some stuff in there to, you know, sort of, I think they've got some like stability thing if you do wider slip and things. So I'm not saying it's a hardcore sim, but the driving just makes sense immediately. The driving in this, to me, as long as you're like well off the pace, it's totally fine and it's interesting. But as soon as you start taking this game a little bit more seriously and you're going for the last 2 seconds or so of pace, it's an absolute chore. And that's why I just stopped playing it. I just can't take it. If it had voice chat, maybe, and online ranking, maybe I could. And if they fixed the lock to horizon and the weird camera settings in this that make you motion sick, then maybe I could. I don't know, but yeah, you know, I don't think they'll ever get it fundamentally fixed. I think Reza are really what you'd say are like a absolutely epic content creation company. The track models, the car models, the audio, the implementation, and the tweaking and polish, they do a bloody amazing job, if not the best job that you get from a developer for doing that sort of work. That's what they did with AMS 1 as well, which is built on R Factor. You can't knock them for what they do, but I just think this physics engine is beyond what they could do. The underlying physics and structure stuff needs addressing. Or just a different tire model. I don't know. Imagine this game, but it was with AMS 1's physics, but with these graphics. I would be very happy, and I think most people would. That's the other thing as well, with all these super advanced, complicated physics engines. Who is actually able to appreciate them fully? Let's assume that it didn't have the problems. Most people can't drive fast enough to appreciate R Factor 1. So, you know, or RBR, you know, all these simpler physics engines, they can't drive well enough to appreciate those fully. So I don't quite know who this complex stuff is for, other than some hypothetical, isn't this fancy, look how complicated it is. Anyway, we could rant about that forever. I recommend getting Automobilista 2. I think the update stuff is really nice. I don't think they'll ever manage to make it drive better than Live for Speed, AC or AMS 1. It's still interesting, but yeah, I really, it's just not for me anymore. Maybe we'll try it again in the future. Who knows? But that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you got to the end, teapot fish teapot, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Till the next one, happy tea drinking, take care, and goodbye everybody.